up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash, here to bring you our NFL Week 1 recap. Look, I normally ask you guys how you're doing on this beautiful Sunday night because you're my friends, of course, but I can probably guess that you're very similar to me, which is it's complicated because on the one hand, football's back. We got to watch Anthony Richardson throw a 70-yard bomb off his back foot. We got to see J.K. Dobbins break off a long run for the first time in who knows how long. But also, all of our teams lost, and more so for Matt and I in embarrassing fashion. But I will toss to you first, Matt. Other than the Panthers getting crushed, how are you doing on this beautiful Sunday night?
Just a shitty football weekend overall. I went to the Cincinnati game. They blew a 21-point lead in the fourth quarter to Pitt. So, yeah, they're going to win 5 games this year or whatever. Outside of that, I'm perfectly fine. I lost my voice, as you can probably tell.
It's okay.
And I'm tired as hell. But outside of that, I'm cool.
Real.
It's a tough life here in the content mines. I like to romanticize it a little bit and pretend we're like on a fishing boat or something in the middle of the night, like working long hours.
Yeah, imagine that, but like even way harder, and that's a lot what having a sports podcast is like.
It is. It's as tough as it gets. We gritted out week 1 here. It's late, but I thought a pretty good week of football, especially that 11 p.m., 1 p.m. window, whatever you want to say, was pretty great. Everything came down to the wire there, pretty much, except for Matt. All the other games.
And Vikings Giants.
And Vikings Giants. But it was good. It was good to have it back. I was able to have a few days to prepare for this podcast so I could go in less emotional about the state of my Packers. But today I was thoroughly entertained.
Oh, as was I until 4:25 rolled around.
Until 4:25.
And then I was in pain for like 3 hours straight.
Yeah, I wasn't having a good time in the 4 window either, thanks to your sorry Browns.
What do my Browns have to do with?
Just stinking up America's game of the week is all.
Were they America's game of the week?
And they were. You guys got Tom Brady on it and everything.
America's game of the week, and we were favored. That's insane. But we won't start with the Browns. We'll start with the games that happened earlier. We had one game on Thursday, one game on Friday. Let's say we just start with the Thursday, Ravens versus Chiefs. This really was the game of the week. AFC Championship rematch. Ravens came down to the wire, had it at, the 2-yard line or something, and tried to, or not quite the 2-yard line. It was close, though. But they had Isaiah Likely in the end zone, and should have wore white cleats next time, I guess. But what are your 2 days, 3 days removed thoughts from this game, Theo? I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, I thought the Chiefs looked like they should be the AFC favorites. It was the main takeaway. I thought that game was kind of the one to determine the pecking order there, who is number 1. And the Chiefs looked a lot more ready. I thought it seemed more like an extension of the preseason for Baltimore. Obviously, it was like that for a lot of teams week 1. I don't think it's a reason to panic, but they couldn't get lined up right. Yeah. They were learning the rules on the fly. They were, I think, tweaking their starting lineups, I'd say. Like, in the future, is Falele the best guy to get 100% of the right guard snaps? God. You know?
Horrible. I mean, just, like, not a question. Horrible, man.
Their linebacker, number 40, Harrison, also was a liability when he was out there. I think, like, in an ideally streamlined Ravens offense, it would be Simpson, basically 100% of the time. Same thing with Wiggins. Like, if this defense is going to be as good as it needs to be, Wiggins is probably out there every single snap. You know what I mean? But it's week one, right? They haven't fully worked their way past the veterans yet. I thought the line looked like definitely a major concern, but day one starters or first time starters going up against Chris Jones,
week, you know,
it's not over for Baltimore. They were in it towards the end, but the Chiefs definitely looked more ready, more buttoned up, like they knew what they were doing right out of the gates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty concerned about the offensive line. I mean, so much hype around Lamar and Derrick Henry and what they can do as a tandem. And I kind of just think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to like whether or not the O-line can hold up their end of the bargain, right? Like, yeah, you can steal, you know, an extra player or extra gap or whatever because you have Lamar, and Henry is so strong that you need to commit to him maybe more than a regular running back. But if your offensive line isn't blocking up well and you're having trouble stretching the field because you don't have guys who win deep consistently enough across the board, then the solution to the whole Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson problem is just to play really aggressive downhill and make the Ravens beat you otherwise. That's how you play it, right? So, I mean, it's a long season. Isaiah likely looked good. You know, Lamar had his moments or whatever, but I really, really didn't like this performance from the Ravens.
Yeah, I do think the Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry backfield delivered on the promise of like, yeah, you can't help out on either one of them, right? You have to commit, like you have to have one guy committed to each guy at all times. But you're right, Matt. The offensive line was such a disaster, they won't play Chris Jones every week. So, like, yeah, there's no reason to, like, seriously panic, but it is a major
They'll
problem.
probably play Chris Jones a week that matters a lot, though.
That's true.
I really don't care if they could beat up on, you know, whoever. Like, I was going to name a weak ass team and
the Bengals,
right? You know, the Bengals.
The Bengals.
And honestly, dude, like, it's early. It's 1 week. It's a handful of runs. The offensive line was bad. I thought Derrick Henry looked a little slow. We'll see how that goes going forward. I thought he looked a touch slow.
I thought that the Ravens offense, I mean, it was definitely disjointed. I thought the Chiefs defense, though, deserves a ton of credit for how good they are. Like, Leo Chanel was just battering everything in when he was coming downhill. Jones caused problems, but so did Wharton, number 98. Like, he was very good. Obviously, Dana is a player who can cause disruption, but it wasn't just Chris Jones, right? This entire front. And anything that was thrown to the flats was immediately erased by Reed or number 27, whose name I cannot quite remember, but their nickel guy I thought was quite good.
Yeah.
And they had a good game plan. I thought that Bolton was pretty much immediately just turning and looking for that first crosser, like in trips, and they would bracket the guys in the middle and leave the kind of the outside matchups more one-on-one. And then Lamar just didn't connect on anything down the field. And that's really what concerned me the most. Like Derrick Henry and looking slow, looking inefficient, right? I can understand that. Like, you're not playing, I think, as with the most talented lineup as you can against the Chiefs. You fall behind. You're a mess early. You're trying to throw your way back into the game. A guy like Henry gets ignored for someone like Justin Hill. I get it. I don't think it's going to be that exact game script in every game, although you're right. Like, they'll have to get back to the Chiefs eventually. But not being able to connect downhill, like down the field when it matters, to me, like, has been a consistent problem last year and now again this year. Like, I think the Ravens can be the best running team at the end of the year. Like, when we look at all the stats, like, even with Derrick Henry not playing super efficiently, they still were a good running
Lamar
team in this game because of Lamar.
He was on a different level this game. He had 16 rushes for 122 yards. He was coming out with a different level of aggression than we've seen him, I'll say, ever, but at least in the last few years. I mean, there was a play early in this one where he lowers his shoulder into somebody. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it's like the exact opposite. He was Tyler Lockett-esque last year with how he avoided contact. And in this game, I don't know if it was because it's a new approach or because he just really wants to beat the Chiefs, which I think that he does. But it was ridiculous. And if Lamar hadn't been doing that, keep in mind he's like running for his life half of the plays, half of his dropbacks.
Right.
But some of the pocket movement was ridiculous. If he hadn't been doing that, they would have lost this game 3-27.
Yeah, seriously. He put the team on his back. I think that he felt the way the game was going, and there was a point where I thought this was headed to be a blowout for the Chiefs, and then he kind of started just running all over the place. I thought it was completely necessary considering the state of the offensive line, the state of the pre-snap stuff, like the state of everything, the state of the Chiefs offense picking up chunk plays all the time.
The number of times it felt like they started drives going backwards with like the illegal formation stuff. It was like way too many.
Definitely.
And then Lamar on his own, he played like 81 snaps, 52 drop backs, 16 runs, and I think most of those were scrambles. I mean, just played his heart out. But the lack, like you talk about not being able to connect, like to hit anything downfield. I mean, that's just something that they literally, at this point, might as well not be in the playbook because they just can't do it. And so, you talk about play calling and how good the Chiefs' game plan was. Like, the Ravens' game plan at this point is kind of this, like, read option-esque system with Lamar and Derrick Henry. And then it's like, well, let's hope Zay Flowers and Isaiah Likely can make some plays after the catch. Right? So it's a lot of stretching laterally, but...
I feel like there's just not the... I feel like there's not the one-on-one winner either. Like, they'll get in these trip sets, and that X receiver is just kind of not a part of things. Like, you're not going to get that one-on-one win on the other side. You'll get the crossers from the trip side, right? Like, they'll hit the play action and try to hit something over the middle. You got that a few times. But, like, no one ever looks like they can just get a bucket easily, like, one-on-one with a win. And I know Zay can, but... he's kind of not used in that way all the time. Like, Bateman is that dude, and he just has not fully broken out.
The X. Flowers had some good plays in that game too, but again, like you said, they hit that crosser, and they would ask him to do stuff after the catch. He caught like a short hitch and made a couple of guys miss. He's good at that stuff. Isaiah Likely had a couple of plays where he looked outstanding, man. I mean. Scramble drill he got active in, made guys miss, broke a tackle, got in the end zone, almost caught the game tying one to send it to overtime. But they just don't have they don't have a Mike Evans, they don't have and then the win like that.
The Chiefs for the Chiefs, I don't have too much to say about them. Mahomes was ridiculous, evading the pressure, making some big-time throws. Pacheco had some angry runs, right? Like, the screen game was devastating. They would get Rashee Rice matched up on a linebacker constantly. They just spammed that. Like, that's all you needed to beat the Ravens defense. I think that Zach Orr kind of had a rough game as defensive coordinator. There was the blown coverage that resulted in one worthy touchdown. Just in general, nothing looked as sharp. Like, on top of the personnel decisions, which I can kind of understand early in the year, but like the pressure paths, everything was just a little bit down from where McDonald was at. So. Yeah, the Chiefs were pretty easily able to roll with guys kind of out of position and not the best lineups on the field, maybe, and just they're capable of hitting. Like, they've got fantastic players. Rashee Rice, crazy burst after the catch. Like,
he looks faster this year, man. He looks
Yeah, he's
faster
good.
and more explosive. What is up, hotties? How would you like to get an extra $500? Well, then head on over to bluewirepods.com/survey and complete the Blue Wire audience survey about you and your podcast listening habits for a chance to win a $500 gift card. This survey will help create a better advertising experience for audiences and in turn, of course, help this show. That's bluewirepods.com/survey, where all you have to do is answer some simple questions for a chance to win $500. Make sure to read the full terms and disclaimer, plus complete the survey for a chance to win. Again, that's bluewirepods.com/survey. The link is also, of course, going to be in the description of this episode. What is up, hotties? You know that when it comes to NFL football, Stay Hot has you covered. But who do you turn to when you need to make smart financial decisions? If your answer is our sponsor, NerdWallet, then you're absolutely right. And if it's not, then allow me to change your mind, because not only have they spent thousands of hours researching and reviewing over 1,300 financial products, but they have the tools you need to make smarter financial decisions. Looking for a credit card? Go beyond the basic comparisons. Filter for features that matter to you and read in-depth reviews. Ready to choose a high-yield savings account? Get access to exclusive deals and compare rates, bonuses, and more. House hunting? View today's top mortgage rates for your new home sweet home. So while Stay Hot is your go-to resource for NFL football, make the Nerds your go-to resource for smart financial decisions. Head to nerdwallet.com/learn more. NerdWallet. Finance smarter. Disclaimer: NerdWallet Compare Inc. NMLS 1617539. Theo, let's talk about
let's talk about the Packers.
the Panthers. We'll get there. The Packers. This was a honestly one of the worst offensive performances you've ever seen, that ended up with both teams having almost 30 points and 30 points, like over 50 total points, and it's awful quarterback play. What are your thoughts, Theo?
I mean, my main thought was be careful what you wish for. As a Packers fan, we wanted man coverage. We wanted four guys down on the line of scrimmage, no more defensive ends dropping in coverage, and we got all of it. Like, legitimately, single high man, like more blitzing. It was all there. AJ Brown just dunked on us, right? He put a just killed us. So you live like that. You live like that. You know what I mean? Like, that was my thought on it. It's like, yeah, man, AJ Brown is pretty good at beating man coverage. It's a pretty tough assignment. And yeah, he totally cooked. I was disappointed in the pass rush. I thought that Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark played horrible. I thought they played really bad. Gary got absolutely no push on Lane Johnson whatsoever. Like, it was comical. He'd put his hands on Lane and just stop right then and there. Like, there was just not an inch of movement backwards after the point of contact. And then Clark, I don't know what was wrong with him. He was just getting blown off the ball, like really not making any kind of impact. And if those two aren't producing, like, they were dependent on the blitzes to work. And they got some good pressure on blitzes, but Hurts completed some passes with a free rusher because A.J. Brown was one-on-one or something like that.
Yeah.
Devontae Smith was one-on-one with Bullard because if you're blitzing your nickel, like, your safety's going to be one-on-one with a slot, right? And he's a second-round rookie safety playing man coverage. So it definitely, we took our lumps for sure. But I do think that there were more turnover opportunities than I've seen in the past with the Packers. I do think that the defense ultimately created enough havoc to give the offense a chance, and they were really the ones to let it down. Like, I truly have not seen the Packers secondary have that many disruptive plays, even though they got burned several times.
Yeah.
And like, I'll take the turnover differential, man. Like, I really will. So I was not in love with the performance, but I can kind of forgive the pass rush against a good offensive line on that kind of turf. Like, okay, maybe there just wasn't their day. Like, I'm happy with the turnovers, but you got to score in the red zone. Love was not sharp. Maybe that's because he was slipping and sliding when he was hitting the top of his drop, and like, just that negatively affected his accuracy all game. And maybe it won't happen on a different surface. I don't know. We'll see when he even comes back. But yeah, definitely plenty of reasons to be concerned about how they might perform against a top tier team, especially I think on defense. And then the offense, Like, didn't look like themselves.
What do you mean when they play a top tier team? They just played the future 1 seed of the AFC. I mean, this was another battle for the 1 seed right here.
Yeah, as our resident Eagles fan, how did you feel about your team's performance?
Yeah, let me go grab my Jalen Hurts jersey real quick. Hurts also didn't look sharp, but he hit throws that mattered. He got A.J. Brown a couple of times, got Devonta Smith a couple of times. The hitch that he hit to A.J. Brown where he got crushed immediately after, that was one of those free rusher plays where it was just like,
Bullard
clearly
off the edge.
knew he was going to get hit, just said, got to get the ball out, trust in A.J. Brown, and it was a big play. Saquon Barkley was I think one of the biggest catalysts for helping the Eagles win this game. He looks so good. Oh, he looks so back. It's great to see him. Like, I mean, we talk about guys that are in new uniforms this year. Saquon Barkley is probably going to be one of the biggest like breakouts, if you will. Like, obviously everyone knows he's great, but
the biggest free agent addition, I think it's fair to say. Right? Like, there wasn't too many crazy ones this offseason.
There was so much on Jalen Hurts' shoulders running the ball last year. To be able to take that off and say, oh yeah, we can give Saquon Barkley 24 carries. I mean, that's a huge. They just didn't have that last year. Point blank. Period. So I think that's really good for them, and I think that helped out a lot. Jalen Hurts only got sacked twice, which I think, given the turf situation, isn't so bad. But yeah, Saquon Barkley, and I heard this on the broadcast. They're like, yeah, you've got Jalen Hurts who squats 500 plus pounds, and then you've got Saquon Barkley who squats 500 plus pounds. That tush push should be impossible to stop now.
Hey, and they stopped it.
Shout
out TJ Slayton.
They stopped it.
No, they didn't stop it enough. And they stopped it twice because they fumbled. I mean, the new center was legitimately a problem.
That was.
But
that'll be something else that probably gets ironed out, though. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I doubt it's a constant issue. But yeah, Matt.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty clearly a slop fest. Kind of hard to take away too many things from it. I'd say that Jalen Hurts played pretty bad, though, Blaiden. Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you. He's incredibly lucky that it wasn't a 5-dog night, because he threw some insane passes that, I mean, there's drops and then there's what the Packers weren't picking up. And then plus the pathetic red zone performance. You had a tweet, Theo, that was like, I don't know if I've seen a Packers game where they've missed more opportunities. And everybody had to be like, had to leave some like snarky comment on it or whatever. But like, dude, like, yeah, obviously.
It was ridiculous.
Right. That was insane. Like, you guys probably left like 35 points on the board or something like ridiculous. So,
oh yeah, between the picks and the red zone opportunity, like the fact that they got 9 points off turnovers and they should have had a pick six when Hurts threw late to the flat on the screen that he pumped and then looked downfield and then went back down to the screen and Nixon was standing right there and he threw it directly to Nixon, who broke on it. Like, that was a touchdown.
Jordan Love should have had a pick six to Nakobe Dean, which Nakobe Dean played a great game. Shout out, Stay Hot legend.
He did. Yes, yeah. The Packers didn't just miss on opportunities. The Eagles, I thought, did have a good game. Jalen Carter had some sick rushes. He has a hump move that put 2 of our linemen on their ass at different points in the game. Mm-hmm. I thought that Jordan Davis played decent. Like, he was kind of key in those red zone stops. Same with Brandon Graham off the bench. Like, we'd get in the red zone and he would come in and just kick our tight end's ass and then like leave. And it's just, fuck you, dude. It was and Quinion Mitchell played amazing, and Slay played pretty good as well.
Mitchell, I agree. He looked really good. I think he's the real deal. Zach Bond.
He looked good, yeah.
Randomly had a very, very good game. And that'd be big for them. Dean and Bond being good for the Eagles changes their outlook, and Mitchell too. Their outlook can easily change from, we just don't know if the pieces are going to be there on defense, to, okay, they could be pretty high ceiling on both sides of the ball. So it was an ugly one. I trust Hurts to be better than this. So I'm looking at like pretty positive at the Eagles outside of this. And on top of that, you win a game against a tough opponent.
Yeah.
There's not that many games to play. It's a big deal. My main concern is Jordan Love not being healthy, dude. I think having Malik Willis out there is like going to be a disaster. I think he's the worst backup quarterback in the NFL, possibly. He could. I think it's rough.
I mean, he went out there and didn't get a throw off for a Hail Mary. So
he went out there. I mean, he has 0 touchdowns, 3 picks in his career. I couldn't help but notice that when it flashed on the screen. And then I couldn't help but notice that Will Levis, the guy that he couldn't start over, looked pretty terrible today. And
if I'm the Packers, I'm scouring free agency. I'm asking who's out there, who can play, who maybe has some experience. I don't know, but I'd be making calls if I were
Bryce for a 5th. What do you say, Matt?
Bryce for a 5th when you've got Ritter for free in free agency.
You're right. What am I talking about? One more thing. Yeah, it was a very encouraging performance by the Eagles overall, even though they did barely win. I mean, it wasn't encouraging for Hurts. Like, he kind of tried to sell the game. The fumbles with the center kind of tried to sell the game. Outside of that, like, they kind of remind me of the Killer B era Steelers, where it's like they got just the craziest skill position talent and a quarterback who's pretty damn good, and they'll be just kind of good off that. I was trying to think of what I call them, if not the Killer Bees. I thought about A's. There's like Saquon, Jalen,
Killer E's like Eagle. Let's
Devontae. Go. I think it's the A's, but it's worse because the A's are kind of scattered throughout their names.
Jalen, Saquon,
Devontae, and AJ. But yeah, they look good, and I liked Tucker Kraft. I'll say that's my last thing about the Packers.
Okay.
He was blocking his ass off and is a good receiving threat. He started over Musgrave. I'm not mad at that. And shout out Kellen Moore. And the better coordinator theory about the Eagles might be correct.
Kenneth Gainwell. Jahan, that's 2 A's, Dotson.
See, it doesn't have the A. The Jahan Dotson doesn't have the A, the like correct.
You really emphasize Jahan Dotson.
Jahan Dotson.
Let's go to the 1 o'clock window from today, Sunday, and we're starting a new series here with Wendy's in our Wendy's Game of the Week. I think the Wendy's Game of the Week happened in the 1 o'clock window. You could disagree and say it's the Sunday night game, but I was a big fan of watching Colts versus Texans. That was absolute cinema, and it will be absolute cinema when they're competing again later this year. Probably a game that will determine who wins this division and is in the playoffs, just like it did last year. Anthony Richardson, oh my God, is the most polarizing quarterback I have ever seen in my life. He is, if it's not, they're going to live and die, the Colts, on these big plays, because it is either a 60-yard touchdown or nothing. Like those are their plays.
I mean, yeah,
that's it. That's all they've got for you, man. And the 70-yarder off his back foot is maybe the greatest throw I've ever seen. He hit another one that was pretty nice. He hit a couple to Pierce that were really great. But he missed horribly twice to A.D. Mitchell. He missed a couple. He had a horrible interception where he missed, I think it was Michael Pittman. I could be wrong on that.
It was Granson that he missed.
Was it? He missed Granson in the preseason too. So they might just not be synced up. I don't know what it is there, but
I mean, yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head here, where it was very high highs and very low lows. He completed 9 passes all game, and 3 of them were the greatest throw I've ever seen, and then the rest of the throws, I don't know. But, 0.22 EPA per drop back, if the numbers say more good than bad, I'll take it. They scored 27 points. He did hit the craziest throw ever, broke off some great runs.
That too.
But the miss to A.D. Mitchell is tough. The pick was kind of hard for me to tell how far off of a throw it was when I watched the initial play. I was like, damn, that was a bad miss. And then when I watched the replay, Granson was definitely stumbling, and I couldn't quite tell how far the ball was over his head from kind of the slow motion back angle. I was like, maybe like I'll have to see the all 22 to see exactly when Granson started stumbling, because I felt
we'll
like
know that in a couple of days.
I felt like that one could maybe be forgivable, but it also could maybe not.
But
be.
he also had a couple that should have been intercepted too.
That was definitely not his most egregious miss. Like, it shouldn't have even been at that point, because Mitchell should have been scoring on that double move.
Yeah, Mitchell should have had 2 touchdowns, like, easily. I mean, he got so wide open both times, and Mitchell looks like he could be legit if he's getting that open, man. I think one of them might have been a busted coverage, but another he legitimately like ran a great route and got open. On the other side, Stroud is Stroud. The Colts defensive line put a ton of pressure on him, and he, honestly, I thought he handled it extremely well for the most part. He got sacked 4 times, can't be overstated, but there were a lot of times where he was making something out of nothing. Him scrambling, there was a lot of plays where Nico Collins did a great job in scramble drill to kind of settle in space. He looks phenomenal. Theo, I know you tweeted about, you can't stop thinking about that 3rd down to like secure the win. That catch was insane. But CJ Stroud looked awesome. I'll say this, though. Joe Mixon, man, kind of back. It's had 150 yards on the ground and a touchdown, and this is going to come back to the Colts' defensive line. Their defensive line is great. Outside of that, it is slim pickings. Their linebackers can't shoot gaps. Their DBs got crushed in coverage a lot of times. I don't know, man. If this team is going to live and die on the highs, it is. But that's all I have to say.
Yeah, obviously their run defense was the
linebackers. The linebackers can't do anything. I don't know what it is, man. Their defensive line is like manhandling linemen, and then Joe Mixon will shoot the gap that isn't being manhandled, and there's no one there. There's no, like, where are the linebackers? Like, they're just gone. They're non-existent. I don't know what's going on.
I think I didn't catch the entirety of this game. I won't lie. But I think the Texans, if their run game improves from where it was last year, you see these types of performances from Mixon. I think that's what elevates them into sort of like they could actually be a threat in the playoffs, territory, tier, however you want to put it. That maybe some people were doubting they would actually hit this season. They ran the ball 40 times this game. You know, they really want to run it. They have Stroud. They have these receivers. They really want to run it. Then being effective at that totally changes their outlook.
Yeah, they had 15 rushes with over 4 yards after contact. That's a pretty good number to be at, 15 of them when you're getting hit and picking up an extra 12 feet. Like, that's pretty crazy. So Mixon absolutely running angry, running through the whole defense. It was a pretty quiet game from Stroud's standards. Didn't matter. Still got a win against a pretty tough opponent.
234, 2 touchdowns. I thought he made a lot of great plays.
He could have 400 if he threw 30 balls to Nico Collins.
Facts, bro. Facts.
It's true.
That guy, Nico Collins, will have a very interesting conversation. Maybe start some discourse about him and where he ranks amongst wide receivers once we get a little bit deeper into the season. Because, dude, he is ridiculous.
He is.
Yeah,
very special.
It's pretty cool that he's huge and he runs great routes and his timing with Stroud is actually unstoppable. He threw a hitch in the preseason. The ball was out of Stroud's hand like basically as soon as Nico Collins released off the line of scrimmage. Like, it was that early, and then he turned around and it was just right there on his face mask. Actually unguardable. Like, there's no possible way, unless you know that the hitch is getting run because you have momentum in Madden and you're just sitting there worrying about no other route, could you possibly defend that, right? And then you see it in the first game of the season. The out route perfectly guarded. The corner jumps it, like he dives in front of it. I was just standing there like, oh man, does that get picked? Like, certainly it was broken up. And then Nico comes up with it. I'm like, oh, he caught it, but like he had to have been out of bounds. It was right on the sideline. Nope. Perfect defense.
Yeah.
All over it. Nothing you could do in a huge moment. And that's the kind of thing that you just can't bank on necessarily with the Colts, is like that level of ball control and accuracy. And right now I think with the Richardson strategy is, look, you don't need to complete that many passes if they're all 20 yards, like if they're 60s. Like you could get it done on just the 3 completions if that's what so they'll hit the QB runs, they'll hand it off to Jonathan Taylor, like they'll try to manufacture some easy ones, but when he drops back, it is legitimately for all the marble. Like it's for the whole game, because all he needs to really do it's more likely that he hits one of the crazy ones than like 20 of the little ones, ones, yeah. So I feel like the Colts are dangerous because of that, and they still do have some easy buttons to push. I thought that Richardson and Taylor looked good today, but yeah, it's a mixed bag when they drop back. But and you don't need too many, but you need more than that.
I was a little harsh on the DBs. They played decent. They should have had a game-winning interception, but it got called back for defensive holding.
Really? I didn't watch too much of when the Texans were on the field, to be honest. It
wouldn't have been game-winning. It would have given them a chance to like have a game-winning drive. Mm-hmm. It might have been game. It might have been game. I don't remember exactly when the timing of that happened, but I was like, oh my God. And I was like, oh. But yeah, I still think the Colts are going to be good. They showed so much promise, but the Texans are also a great team. And it was within 2 points. It came down to the wire there. So that's our Wendy's game of the week. Another game that we need to talk about, probably. It's important. Or for some of us. Panthers Saints. Matt, I'm just going to
go for it.
Yeah, I mean, legitimately, they've lost in the playoffs before, and they lost Super Bowl 50. And I would say that of any regular season game that they've played that I can think of, there's probably a few that like cost them a playoff spot. This is among the worst games that I've ever watched them play. I really do think so. Game 1 with all of like the hope in the world, people are excited to see, and just to come out and instantly crash and burn is pathetic. And this team is going to suck. They're going to be the worst team in the NFL. I don't know what we were thinking. I don't know what we were seeing. Dude, first off, I won't even start with Bryce. Their defense is so bad, dude. Their pass rush is going to be so bad. It makes every play just so easy for the offense. It's just so easy. Worst case scenario, you can just sit back there forever and hit a flat for 5 yards, or check down for 5 yards, or whatever. As Saints, it's impossible to force negative plays when you don't have the quarterback on a timer. On top of that, their linebackers, the guys at Jewel, no, he doesn't have the range to stop anything in coverage. You can target him all day. And their secondary really didn't play that well either. There was a few nice plays. Michael Jackson had a couple of nice ones, but I think he got burnt for one too. They had a big breakdown in coverage. Shaheed scored a long touchdown. Just in general, I don't think they have that. And their run defense was bad too. I mean, across the board, they're not good at anything. And I said before the season, I don't think the Saints offense is going to be that good. Maybe they're better than I expect, but I still don't look at this team and say, yeah, they've got one of the more talented offenses in the NFL. They're going to go up against worse offense or better offenses than this. What's going to happen then? They let up 47 points this game. It's like that Broncos Miami game, it might be like that week to week for this squad, dude. They just don't have the guys. They don't have the talent. But then offensively, I mean, the bigger deal, they could have let up 100 points and it wouldn't have really mattered, because it all comes down to how Bryce played. And he played so bad that like the Bryce defenders, these are guys who like for 6 months were like, we got to give him time. He's going to be good. People who are out on him or like low on him because of year one are ridiculous. I'd say 90% of them were punting on Twitter. It was bizarre to watch. I've never seen anything like it. He's just not looking like an NFL player. There's no other way to put it. I believe that he can process things well, and I believe that like the ability to get outside of the pocket and like make something happen is within him. The problem is that like athletically, he is just so far behind what a good starting quarterback should be that he's working like 105% on any given play. Anytime he's pressured, he's got to go like put everything he possibly has into it. And I know you might say like, well, every quarterback is going to do, like every quarterback's going to be trying as hard as they can. But go look at like Anthony Richardson. And it's like, yeah, I'm not saying he's perfect, but there's plays where it's like he does something great and he makes it look easy and he makes it look effortless and it comes naturally to him.
Yeah.
You look at a guy like Matthew Stafford tonight, why not? Hitting some ridiculous throws and standing in tough and pressure and making. Bryce is just, he's small. It's tough for him to do that. And he's really not that fast either. So when he gets outside of the pocket, he's really, really, really grinding to stay ahead and not to get tracked down. And on top of that, even worse, it's like, okay, maybe I knew that like the athletic limitations were there for him. When he was getting throws off, he was missing horribly. I mean, like terrible, terrible, terrible misses all game. And the 3 interceptions, or the 2 interceptions, were just brutal, complete misses. To be real with you, it's not acceptable for a guy who is billed as pro ready like Bryce Young was. I understand that year 1 was tough. I understand everything's been a disaster, but I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I have absolutely zero reason as it stands right now to believe that part of the reason why the Panthers like are this disastrously bad is because Bryce sucks. Like that's really a very, very likely reality. Now, I think we should let it play out a little bit. Maybe there's a world where Bryce kind of plays a similar game to what he did today, but he just hits more of the throws that he like gets out on. Mm-hmm. I could see that for sure. But I definitely feel like the ceiling is just not as high as you would hope it would be. And like I've said before, I for a number 1 overall pick, for a Panthers team that has invested everything they possibly can into making him, you know, comfortable or trying to make the situation better, the result being, you know, instant interception, you know, a missed throw, disaster game against a good Saints defense. Don't get me wrong. It sucks. I think it's probably, you know, just out of being scared that anything can happen. I don't want to say like he's done. We should be completely looking forward. But Steven Ruiz had a take 2 weeks ago on Bill Simmons' podcast where I saw a clip of it on Twitter where he's like, Bryce might get benched this year. He said Bryce is going to get benched this year. Oh. And like from game 1, that just totally looks like it's a reality. I think the big thing standing in the way of that, of course, is that like if you do that, you're saying it's over, right? You're saying this isn't going to work if you bench him. So you have to be really, really cautious with it. And I do think
the Dolphins benched Tua. and he just got a big extension. So
yeah, this ain't Tyreek and Waddle, you know. and maybe I'll give you that. Maybe it's a little bit different, but I just am incredibly disappointed with how he played. You figure he's got to be better going forward, but I'll be real with you. I figured he got to be better going into week 1. I figured he's got to be better than last year, and this was among his worst performances. I mean, the only thing you can really hang your hat on is that Packers performance that he had last year. That was a good game. So I know there's like games like that within him, but I just think with the limitations that he works with, I know he's not on a good offense, but it feels like if they're going to happen, they're going to be too far into it. Like, I don't know. It's just not looking good.
No, it's not. Do you want to play one little game, though, Matt? Maybe it'll brighten your mood. It's a guessing game, a trivia game, maybe. Can you guess how many pressures PFF charted the Panthers with today, total?
Okay, I'm imagining every time that, like, Bryce...
No, their defense on Carr.
Oh, on Carr?
Yeah.
Okay, I know that they had like one sort of like bogey sack that was like but like.
For reference, Bryce got pressured 15 times just to set like maybe a benchmark.
I'm going to go with 5.
Ooh, 4. You were right. You were right there.
4 pressures. And I'm not even trying to hate on Saints fans, which usually I am. No disrespect. You know how it goes. Their offensive line isn't even supposed to be good. Their offensive line is legitimately supposed to be trash. Like, this team could end up with, 11 sacks.
Oh, yeah.
What is stopping that from happening?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's bad, dude. The pass rush is so bad that I don't know how any quarterback doesn't just carve them up.
Yeah, I was deciding between them and the Commanders for worst record in the league. I said Commanders. I thought both of these defenses would be brutal. But after week 1, it's hard to say that Jaden Daniels is worse than Bryce. Jaden Daniels was clearly better. So, yeah, it's probably the Panthers. They both have brutal defenses, but maybe the Giants are in there. But, yeah, man, the Panthers were horrible. Just blitz Bryce. Well, why not? He's not going to beat the blitz at this point. He's going to can't throw over anybody. He's going to hold the ball. He's going to try to make something happen. He's going to get sacked. That's the end of what it comes down to. That was the Saints game plan. And that was everybody's game plan last year. Who's going to burn you? How is that beatable? That's the baseline thing. If you can't beat the blitz, it's the easiest way to get killed in the league. I think Watson has the same problem, kind of in a different way, where it's he doesn't
we'll
look.
Talk about Watson, man.
So just blitz him, right? He's going to hold it. He's going to make a bunch of dumb decisions like the Panthers seem to be, maybe not for the exact same reasons, but yeah, it's just day one basic offense is you can just heat them up and they can't do anything. So
hold on. One more thing. 2.9 yards a carry. This is tied for the most expensive offensive line in the entire NFL, by the way. Even if Bryce became good, what's the long-term build here? The team just makes no sense. They have 100 contracts, and the explanation for every single one of them is well, you could cut them in 2 years and not have that much of dead money. Great, dude. It really is just a terrible team.
They established it though. They got to 20 carries.
Hell yeah, dude.
They were stubborn
Jonathan
with
Brooks, good luck, buddy. Coming back from an ACL and you're you're on the Panthers.
You should demand a trade immediately. But I do want to give some credit to the Saints, though. I do think that they are better than people think, and I do think that, yes, the Panthers are awful. They're horrible. But the Saints, this idea that their offense was amongst the worst in the league, and that Derek Carr, who has always been very average in the 16 to 20 range for quarterbacks, year after year after year after year, this idea that all of a sudden he's bottom 3 and going to get benched for Spencer Rattler, and they didn't have any playmakers and they didn't have any offensive linemen and no hope. People were just so out on the Saints, I feel when it was pretty. Their defense kicks a little bit of ass, and their offense is not really that bad. And I think that this game kind of went to show. Again, it's against the Panthers. I'm sure that they'll struggle in other games and they won't win and they won't look dominant. But the Saints aren't this horrible problem team. This is only a 4-point spread. I thought that was a little disrespectful for the Saints going into the game. And I'm glad that they proved me right. We're not glad for your sake, Spawnhour, but glad for my sake.
Right.
Yeah, for your prediction, which was right. Hey there, sports fans. As the NFL season kicks off, it's time to fuel up and stay in the game with Factor. Forget the hassle of meal prepping and cleaning. Factor has you covered with their no prep, no mess meals. With Factor, you can meet your wellness goals with ease. Their chef-crafted meals come in options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and even Keto, so you can enjoy nutritious, delicious food that fits your lifestyle. And here's the kicker. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready to eat in just 2 minutes. That means more time cheering on your team and less time in the kitchen. With over 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from each week, you'll never get bored. So crush those wellness goals with dietitian-approved meals featuring premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. From breakfast to dessert, Factor really has tasty options to keep you fueled all day long. Make today the day that you kickstart a healthier routine. Head to factormeals.com/stayhot50 and use the code STAYHOT50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's factormeals.com/stayhot50 with code STAYHOT50. Get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Stay hot, stay fueled, and enjoy the season. I'm trying to think about what other game we should hit next. Maybe Patriots Bengals. Jacoby Brissett kind of looked okay. You know, like he looked horrible last year.
24 attempts for 120 yards.
No. But like he kind of looked okay at times. You know,
Ramondre Stevenson looked.
Yes,
Ramondre Stevenson was a beast.
Game.
But Jacoby Brissett didn't look like the worst quarterback in football.
No, he didn't turn it over. He didn't look like Bryson.
He didn't throw an interception. It's like, yeah.
And he only got sacked once for 1 yard loss.
I look at this game and I'm like, Brissett played mid, but he didn't turn it over. Maybe May would have. We're gonna have to deal with no May for another week. That sucks. No hate to Jacoby, but I want to see May. I agree about Stevenson. I thought he had a really good game after a really bad year last year. And I thought the big thing and one of the big a lot of concerns for the Bengals right now after this, because it's an unacceptable loss for what their standard is and where the Patriots are and where they are as teams.
Especially because you locked them and they lost.
Especially.
So that looks bad on you.
Yeah, for sure. But the run defense for Cincinnati is really rough.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, they had 8 in the box. They had free hitters coming at Jacoby Myers not Jacoby Myers. Holy cow, I'm way off. At Ramondre Stevenson, and they would just miss. They would just slide off. And then Ramondre would furthermore break the tackle of the safety. It happened a bunch of times. No one could tackle. Defensive tackles were bad. Trey Hendrickson was getting blown off the ball. It was rough. And then the offense, where was the playmaking anywhere? No, Burrow, he played fine, I thought. He wasn't the main problem. There was a fumble at the 1 yard line. There was another fumble. Yeah. There were T. Higgins wasn't playing. It kind of was a not his fault game, and I thought he played fine. But just the general fuck it mentality. I got to go put the team on my back. When Lamar was in trouble, he could just run it and be the most explosive runner in the entire league, and carry the Ravens back in it. I feel when Burrow was oh man, we're in trouble here, there wasn't much outside of just check downs, which is fine. I guess Herbert has probably been there before and all that, but I don't know.
We know Herbert's been there before.
Oh yeah. And he's had games where it has been kind of all hitches and stuff to Eckler and stuff like that. And they definitely, he definitely could have used a lot more help, but just in general, I thought that it's always a debate, who's the best quarterback in the AFC North. It's Lamar.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Jamar Chase didn't practice all offseason. He gets a tough assignment with Christian Gonzalez week 1, and he lost. And they fumbled, and they couldn't stop the run, and it was ugly. Their offensive line was bad. I know that Mims is out, but it's concerning that he's out at all, and
right.
It was just ugly.
That was the big concern with Mims coming out of college, is that
I was so high on the Bengals early, and then as the season kind of got closer and closer, I became a little bit gun shy just because of how discombobulated their training camp kind of seemed, with Chase not being there, and then they're undergoing this scheme change, is what it sounded like. So it's hey, who knows what it's going to look like week 1, and then you factor in T. Higgins not being there, and it was just a mess.
culturally, they have a problem where absolutely every single player who is good for them has to go through like a big, dramatized contract negotiation because their owner is broke.
Or they lose them. The culture problem where they lose their good players to the Lions.
They lose their good players. Yeah. You think about the 2021 defense. I was talking to my buddy about this. It's like, what made that defense great? Well, it's a lot of things, but it was Bates and Reeder. And you let both those guys walk for like not that much, man. And it just doesn't like what, $25 million a year combined, maybe. It just doesn't make any sense, dude. When other teams are willing to be aggressive and like restructure and figure it out later, you look at the Lions, right? Imagine if the Lions were Cincinnati for a second. How do you think this would go right now? Somebody, Amon-Ra would be without a contract, and Sewell would be, and it'd be a whole disaster. And even if you keep the guys, it's just not a good feeling to have in the locker room. I don't think it's not good for the team. And I think when you should be building and when they could have been building, I think you can even survive a few years of Burrow being on a big contract before like the money really starts to hit. Their window could have been open a lot longer, it feels like. I'm not saying they're totally shot, but it's certainly closed way more than it should be, way more than it would be with other teams. And then them not drafting like super, super hot the last few years has kind of really...
That is the killer. Them. Like, you look at Dax Hill, man. He was supposed to be the replacement at safety. Terrible at that. So they're like, oh, we'll move him back to corner. Terrible at that. Like, he could not tackle. You want to talk about the tackling problem? Do you know how many times I watched him just get shoved out of the way? Too many.
Yeah. We had a mid-off debate in our AFC North episode where you said, Blaiden, that the Browns could make the playoffs over the Bengals. And I was like, no, there's no way the Browns are good enough.
No way.
They're both... maybe they're both bad,
It is week one. I do hold out hope that the Bengals offense can get right, and that can save them a little bit.
Yeah.
But, and also, to be fair, so many teams, I feel like, look at ass today.
It's true. And it's the number one thing giving me hope about the Packers is like, we looked ass, we look screwed. How many teams are feeling like that right now? There's a lot of them who struggled to. I mean, how many close games were there? There were a lot of one-score games. The Dolphins in a one-score game, Texans in a one-score game, Bears in a one-score game, Lions in a one-score game.
Right. But you can win and still look bad. Look at
Chiefs,
the Eagles, right?
Yeah. So you're right, Matt. Everybody looked a little. Everybody's angry after week one. Maybe not.
Look,
everybody on this podcast. People who won it probably can look over it.
Packers looked bad. I think they can be better.
Yeah.
I think they could have won that game by a lot. It was a weird game, field slippy. I think they can be better. Yeah. Bengals, I don't think they're quite as good as the Packers. I think they can be better. There's some other teams where I'm like, okay, this is probably going to be like how it is for you for the rest of the year, and that would be my Browns. Carolina Panthers, and it would certainly be like your Cleveland Browns, Blaiden Kirk.
I mean, what else is there to say besides like Deshaun Watson has negative juice?
He's so bad, man. Right? He's so bad. It's the same stuff you're saying with Bryce, Matt. Every single time that anything that isn't perfect happens, it just completely folds. Just completely.
He has no composure. He has zero composure whatsoever. And I feel like that used to be one of his main strengths. And now it's like his biggest weakness. I mean, it's honestly ridiculous how bad he was at handling pressure, how little he wanted to push the ball down the field. And then when he did, a lot of times it was like outside of the numbers throws. And I think he was just scared to put it in harm's way. And he started missing those like 5 to 10 yards out of bounds, like looking like he was throwing them away. It didn't make any sense. My take on it that I had on TikTok is that the Browns had bad quarterback play last year. So going into the season, the idea was like what? Like, okay, well, maybe it'll be like last season when they made the playoffs because, the quarterback play won't be good, but the defense could be great and they could like be manageable, and that's how they could make it work. But I think at least last year when you had like Joe Flacco in, he really wasn't playing that great, but he was being aggressive. He was pushing it down the field, and he was giving the offense a chance to make plays. Threw a lot of picks, was on pace to throw like 30-something picks, but That honestly put them in a position to score more than being super passive would have. And the defense held their end of the bargain, and it ended up working out, and they got the breaks to some extent. Watson doesn't give you that. He's not willing to do that. He can't. Every throw he throws down, I mean, they're all horrible misses, and he's checking it down way more often than he should be.
I texted you guys this. I don't know if I tweeted it. The number of times where the Browns would just start off, kind of like the Ravens did, they would start off going backwards. And then it would be 3rd and 11, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 13, and they would throw a 3-yard pass. Can't happen. Absolutely can't happen. Obviously, you don't want to be losing yards on, 1st and 2nd down. You don't want to be putting yourself in those 3rd and long situations. No team with a real quarterback is doing that. It's just not happening. Either you have a guy like Lamar where he's so threatening with his legs and he can make that up with his legs if he needs to, or like even if they're not completing it, throw it at the sticks, throw it close to the sticks. It's so sad to watch. Matt, you talk about the throwing down the field. There's one, I don't even know what he was trying to throw out. I won't know until we get the all-22. It looked like he might have been trying to hit a post. There's 4 Cowboys defenders in the area. Should have been an interception. Just like a wildly awful miss. No one knows where he's throwing the ball. Maybe the worst quarterback in the NFL. Like we're legitimately we have to have this conversation that he legitimately might be the worst starting quarterback in the NFL, up there with maybe Bryce. I don't know who, Daniel Jones. Like it's rough out
Levis.
here. Levis.
He's up there, man.
And the Browns couldn't run the ball either.
He's bottom 5. I completely don't disagree. And this is why I think it could be an ugly season for the Browns. I still hold out hope that their defense can get things done. And it's nice that the Bengals looked ugly as well. But, like, damn, man. For him to be so passive and so scared to make a mistake on those long 3rd down plays, it's crazy how he got sacked 6 times and threw 2 interceptions anyway.
Yeah, bro. That's what it's like. You're going to be scared but also be horrible. Like, I don't know, man. At least if you're going to be scared, at least, like, make good I don't know. I mean, there's just nothing to say.
3.8 air yards per attempt on 3rd down today. Just awful. Right. Like,
and keep in mind, every single one of those 3rd downs was like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10.
Yeah.
And the defense too. The defense played well. Like the defense, you'll take 150 yards from Dak. 179. Okay. 180 yards from Dak. 19 of 20. Like CeeDee Lamb, 5 receptions, 61 yards, no touchdowns. They let Brooke Cooks get behind him one time. You'll take, like, that is amazing versus the Cowboys offense, right? Yeah. Like, that is great. You limit Dak to under 200 yards passing. Zeke, their leading ball carrier, had 10 carries for 40 yards. Like, that's not much. And yet it's a massive blowout. Like, that's how bad the offense is. Yeah. The defense did a good job.
Because,
it's not enough.
There is some credit that needs to be given to the Cowboys defense. Like, obviously, they played well. They've got dogs on their team. Cannot be denied. 6 sacks, 2... Like, inexcusable. No serious starting quarterback is having this kind of performance. Not one. And he is the highest paid, he has the most guaranteed money of any player in NFL history, and he's horrible.
He's horrible. It's
luckily
he's unbelievable.
Luckily, he's a great guy, man. Luckily, he's.
Yeah, it's one of the most unbelievable stories in NFL history. How bad he is. I watched. We won't spend much time on it because I only watched a little bit of it. But like Daniel Jones was worse than Watson. I don't know if you guys watched any of that.
No.
Giants offense today. I thought he was going to get benched by the end. Like Bryce, if you say Bryce was benchable today, like Daniel Jones is the other one who is like just unacceptably
I do
bad.
stand on Watson we will see Jameis by week 5. Like there's no way.
Yeah, I could see it, and we could see if Daniel Jones plays like he did today. Next week he'll get benched. Next week, accuracy abysmal, nothing happening. Decision making, like in the red zone, he threw like a bender between Tampa 2 and the safety just like undercut it. There's like 4 people there. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Just horrendous. And like the whole offense looked like a total mess. At one point they were at second and medium. They ran like QB power with Jones twice in a row. It's like, how is that your answer? On second down, like
That's
awesome. Jones, I don't know if it was power or exact the blocking scheme. Like I didn't go back and analyze it really, but I just know he caught the ball and like followed his blockers straight downhill, and then he did it again the next play, and they punted after that. It's like, bro, he's coming off an ACL, and you're like sending him into the meat grinder twice on second down. But that's what it was calling for. Like he really couldn't complete a pass. He had one dime to Neighbors that I thought about tweeting out, like just Daniel Jones, because it's the only highlight that he had. It was like dagger that was well placed, but just laughable picks.
Elite
just
ball placement.
Still no sense of control in the pocket. Like when he takes off, you just know something bad's about to happen. Like he's not going to make anybody miss. He's not going to launch from a cool point and complete anything. Like you just know it's over. And in the pocket, he wasn't doing any. Like couldn't hit anything. So he was terrible. Oh, but I just remember Bo Nix. Now that I'm looking at all of these, he was the worst of all.
Dude, here's the thing. I did not catch like that game at all. What the hell happened with Bo Nix?
Dude, he couldn't, like, it was one of those games where every time he dropped back, I was expecting him. Like, it just got to the point where it was a safe bet that he was about to throw you one. Double coverage, triple coverage, like, he just wasn't seeing anything, basically. His footwork was horrifically bad. His accuracy was horrible. Like, he was staring down the first read. Like, it was terrible. He hit through... I haven't even gone back and looked at it, so my memory is, like, failing me on exactly what these picks were, because I saw him and then I'm, like, moved on. But all I know is it was in a sea of bodies, and he had a couple more where I was just like, what is he doing? Like, he'd throw it, and there'd be just, like, 3 Seahawks guys there and nobody else. He threw it once to a linebacker. It hit the linebacker Dotson in the face, and he dropped it. It was about as bad of a debut as I've seen, I would say. Now, obviously, McDaniel is tough. Like, it is a debut. Everybody had a bad debut today.
McDonald,
yeah. But that one was especially bad.
Yeah, but
I'm interested to go back and watch it for sure.
Despite that, it was a one-score game. 2 Seahawks safeties in the first half. Inexcusable.
Yes.
I don't remember what I tweeted out, and I think I tweeted out, like, something about how, like, the Browns were horrible, and someone was like, Seahawks in their own territory offense worse. Not great, but they did seem to turn things around. Gino had some good moments, but that first half was rough.
Their offensive line looked just as bad as last year's, if not worse.
Well,
their tackles were getting just dog walked in the first half, and then
are both of their tackles hurt right now?
I saw Stone Forsythe in there at one point, but I wasn't sure if it was because Lucas got benched or because he started the whole game. But they did lock in the second half. It did go touchdown, field goal, touchdown in the third quarter. Although they didn't score any points in the fourth, did they? So really only one good quarter from the Seahawks, but at least they did break through eventually. I don't know. It wasn't a super encouraging performance. The good news for them was they tackled everything that was in front of them for the most part. They didn't look like the worst tackling team in the league this time around. They took the ball away, obviously, although Nick was handing it to him on a silver platter. The first half of the first game being a total mess, and then at halftime, like, adjustments start to be made and they find traction. It's not the worst outcome in the world. K9 looks like a dog. Like, he was pretty elite today, I think. DK got the Surtain treatment. Okay, Surtain is pretty good. Lockett put the game away. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you're feeling fine if you're a Seahawks fan. Like, you won. I don't know.
Right.
It didn't look great, but like you said, Matt, a lot of teams looked shit in this week 1 game. I think if you look shit and win, it's okay.
Better than losing.
I didn't watch too closely in this one as much as I did others, so maybe more to say about it next week. But I just know that Bo Nix was.
Yeah,
I am seeing Abe Lucas was out.
Okay. Then it was.
So.
Injuries did it again.
Injuries did it again, Matt. They did.
Eventually, when Abe Lucas and Charles Cross are both healthy,
they did.
You'll see.
Give it up.
Seahawks. I always love the comment. Seahawks gimmick again. It's not a gimmick, man.
They're probably first in the NFC West right now.
Hey. Shout out.
We're cooking.
Yeah, and after Monday night, they'll still be first.
No doubt.
No doubt.
Did you guys catch any of Caleb or Jaden Daniels' debut, as long as we're on the topic?
Dude, no, this is what was killing me, man. There's so much to watch. It's like, dude, Caleb had a disaster class. And I saw one person say, like, the expectations for him were so unrealistic. It's game 1. It was bad. I'm not that worried, but I also don't think the expectations are unrealistic at all. I'm holding my ground on that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I watched his performance. First, a little bit of it was not his fault because Keenan did drop a touchdown in the end zone. And also, Coleman Shelton, I believe their center is, got like absolutely obliterated in this game. I don't know if you saw the blitz that I retweeted, I guess, where Ernest Jones came downhill and just murdered the center, like murdered him, ran him straight over. And you can imagine how that looks against a defense that employs like Sweat and Simmons. Like, even everybody was getting in on that. Like, any defensive tackle lined up over the center was whipping the center's ass. And so, like, it was a little bit hard for Caleb. Definitely, he scrambled backwards a few times and couldn't escape. And it was that I was like, okay, get an NFL center and you're probably fine. That I'm not going to blame on Caleb, but targeting the middle of the field, he did look a little rough, and in ways that I don't know if it automatically gets better, because Keenan is sitting down over the ball, right? And Caleb does have the short gene to some extent, and I felt like there was a little bit of awkwardness trying to fit it in the windows, over the windows, two people in the middle of the field. You look at his next gen stats throw chart, there's nothing in the middle at all. And I do think when I went and watched this game back and looked at plays where he was even trying to look at the middle, I did think that there was a little bit of, I don't know, kind of hesitancy to access it, which concerned me a little bit. But a lot of it, like, the center is horrible, but that's not getting any better. Like, who are you going to put in?
I saw two plays from this game on Twitter. The first was, I'll say the second was the blocked punt. And I was like, oh, I just saw a blocked punt on the Colts game. Like, at the exact same time. I was like, what the? That was weird. The first play I saw was Caleb Williams lose like 70 yards on a sack.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, what?
The center got cooked, and
he tried to do
go
the
backwards.
Turned his back to the defense, and they got his ankles, and it was like, that was a really bad play. But
he missed some throws early with interior pressure. There was a whole shot to Keenan that was wide open that he overthrew. It was a rough game. Like, he looked bad, I thought, but
like we said, a lot of teams looked bad. A lot of guys looked bad.
Yeah.
And they did, in fact, get the win when it looked like the Titans might run away with it.
Did you see Levis with his hands on his head in the middle of the plane?
Oh my God. Jokic Joe started tweeting that out.
He held it too. The screenshot almost doesn't do it justice, because on the broadcast you could see him collapse to the ground and and put his hands on his head. And then like Tyreek Stevenson runs off the screen and he's just staying in that position like as the camera pans.
Go make a tackle, dude.
I need to see the all 22 of exactly how, like, did he watch him run into the end zone still like that? Like, how long exactly was Levis holding that position?
Yeah,
Stay
no,
hot, legend.
it was brutal. It was brutal. A lot of rough quarterback play this week.
Yeah. Maybe we'll just chalk it up to a lot of good defensive performances. And
Yeah.
Quarterback.
next week, all the quarterbacks will be good.
Mm-hmm.
Your favorite quarterback will be good next week, that's for sure.
I thought that Jaden was pretty fine, though. I mean, they fell behind. It was kind of a lost game, but for him to be putting up like a positive EPA and things like that. But compared to Nix and Caleb, and I guess those are the only two others that started because McCarthy's hurt and the other two are benched. But
And like in like some of the other young guys.
Yeah, I
'cause,
thought
like
that-
Levis and Young.
I thought that Daniels looked comfortable in the pocket. I mean, he was using his legs
Yeah.
a lot, but I'm kind of fine with that. Like, scrambling was a good play for him. He didn't take any dumb hits, I thought. Like, he took contact, but it was to score, so that's forgivable.
Yeah.
That's good. You should be taking contact to score. I mean, he didn't do anything too crazy, but like he looked more comfortable than the other ones, I'd say. So I liked his debut.
That's fair. He did get clobbered one time.
He
Like,
did.
He got his helmet knocked off. I was like,
he got murdered. And that
Oh
was
my
bad.
God.
He held the ball. He had Ertz wide open right in front of him, and he backed up and just got sandwiched. He got murdered. So yeah, that wasn't good. But outside of that, I was like, okay, I'm not offended by anything that happened here. That one though was bad. But
that was rough. That was a Jaden Daniels hit if I've ever seen it.
he looked
But he
good
got
running
up.
it. He
got
did
up.
exactly like what we wanted to see. Like the Commanders' rush offense looked good because
Yeah.
of him, right? Like him stealing attention, him carrying the ball on designed runs, on scrambles. He was making people miss. He was tightrope walking the sideline for extra yardage. Like we were saying, okay, if you don't light the world on fire through the air, it's fine. As long as we know you get the highest floor boost from an improved running game and don't like have a disaster Bo Nix game where you're throwing it into triple coverage all the time. That's exactly what we got. So like, I'd say he's at least more than the other ones, like not behind the 8 ball in terms of his rookie season.
And Baker Mayfield
Yeah.
threw 4 touchdowns.
And
That's the craziest
led
part
the-
about this whole Deshaun Watson shit is that Baker's awesome.
Look, Deshaun Watson could throw 4. I didn't watch much of the offense for the Bucks, but I bet I know what it looks like versus the Commanders' defense. Mike Evans catching a fade on Emmanuel Forbes or St. Just or something. Yeah, it's wide
Yeah.
open. What were you saying, Matt?
I was saying that Bucky Irving led the Buccaneers in rushing week 1.
The Buccaneers.
I like that. 9 carries, 62 yards. Rashad White, 15 carries, 31 yards. No. We need to change those splits immediately. I need 20 Bucky Irving carries immediately. I'm so hype about that, dude. I'm hype about that. I'm hype about Dobbins. Dobbins back in big 2024 is crazy.
And he's good. That's insane.
Think of all
Dobbins
the
Hive
other
never
agendas that look dead in the water right now that will certainly come roaring back to life next year.
Alec
Matt
Pierce,
Corral.
alive and well.
Pierce, too? Yeah, you're right. You're
He had
right.
a big
We're up.
game, man. He had a big game.
Van Jefferson gonna have a resurgence.
0 yards today, I'm pretty sure. He's not resurging shit on the Steelers, I won't lie. But
Did I see Felipe Franks recover a muffed punt as well?
he is on the roster. I don't remember if it was him.
I think he did. I saw someone named Franks recover a muffed punt at the end of the game for the Panthers. And I was like, I thought Franks got cut. It can't be Felipe. But if he's on the roster, it probably was.
I think he's back. I think he's back.
He did recover a fumble then.
Yes.
He did.
It was him.
It was like with the 1 minute left in a 47-10 game, but it did happen.
There we go. We're so back.
Yeah, he did. Shout out. He's doing the little things.
He is.
And that brings us to the Sunday night game, which, Matt, you said that Matthew Stafford, you said this in our group chat, Matthew Stafford's a top 5 quarterback.
Dude, he's got to be.
He doesn't age, I'll tell you that much.
Dude, he is ridiculous. The shit that he hits with pressure in his face, his arm talent, he's next level, man. I'm not going to name any names. But there's not 5 dudes better than him. There's not 5 dudes better than him. I probably Burrow, honestly.
Real.
It's been a minute since we've seen Burrow play better ball than Matthew Stafford.
Mm-hmm. Dude, he was cooking. The no-look passes, the arc he has on some of these balls when he's under pressure, like he'll just kind of play with the height on it. I feel like I don't know, like the path his ball takes through the air is like nobody else. He is an absolute wizard. Unlimited creativity, even though he's not like the strongest or the fastest at this point, right? Like he just still finds ways to manipulate people. He's crazy. Like he's absolutely nuts. And I thought that was one of my takeaways from the game tonight is just like, if you're the Lions, you've got to be feeling good about what's going on. The Packers lost. The NFC North is open. It's your year, all these things. But you won the game tonight. But you are remembering what you lost when you watch Stafford versus Goff. Right? Like there was a time when the Rams were almost Super Bowl champions and then they needed to get rid of Goff for Matthew Stafford. When the Rams play the Lions, I think the Lions fans kind of find them like must be haunted by that because now they're the ones who are getting outdueled by any kind of elite quarterback. That they're
winning.
They are winning though.
They're winning, and I think overall that matters more to them. I mean, you know,
true.
There is some that draft capital didn't mean nothing. And I thought honestly this was a super encouraging game for Detroit, dude. I was pretty pumped about it. Their run defense was really good. It was really stout. Their defensive line did play very strong. I was happy about that. Jamison Williams had a big game. Dude, that was like my number one concern. If he keeps balling, I'm not saying that everything was crazy, but he had some big wins. That's huge, dude.
Yeah.
And their run game was really strong. Offensive line going. I thought there was the defensive backs was some good and some bad for sure. It's a tough team to go up against. Cooper Kupp 8, but in everybody's defense, I mean, do you know how many targets he had?
20?
21.
Close.
Yeah, man.
I'm sick. I didn't come away with him in any fantasy league, even though I really liked it. I was like, if I'm going after a wide receiver too, I want to go after him. But then I would get kind of to the middle rounds, and like Waddle would be there or something, who I kind of had so I went with Waddle in a bunch of leagues. And I was like, oh man, I ended with no Cooper Kupp.
Imagine you're in a
stock.
PPR league and you see Cooper Kupp had 14 catches, dude.
It's so awesome. It's just awesome that Stafford does this shit. And no other quarterback does it, and I love that he's sick when he does it. So I don't feel negative. I mean, about the Rams more than I did. I guess their offensive line was like pretty.
Number 61. What was his name? He was like the worst lineman I've ever seen. The one on the left tackle after Noblem went out.
Worse than Falele against the Chiefs?
Yeah, worse than Falele against the Chiefs. What was his last name? He was so horrible. Like, Hutchinson beat his ass every single snap. But I don't know.
AJ Arcuri?
Yes.
From Michigan
yes,
State. Yeah.
Yes, I will. Sometimes a player enters the game and he enters everybody's collective memory as like the worst player you've ever seen play for your team. Yeah. He, I think, entered that unfortunate pantheon for Rams fans tonight. It was a infirmary ward offensive line by the end of it. But even when they were healthier at the beginning, like I thought right out of the gates, the Lions pass rush was pretty formidable. I thought it was kind of a minor miracle the Rams were in the game at all, just thanks to Stafford magic.
He's goated.
And then I guess another takeaway from this game that I had was I don't like it. Confirmed to me that I really don't like the Rams draft class. They still played a bunch of 3-4 with Hoyt and Young out there. I mean, they had, I guess, First got on the field a decent amount, but in this scheme, I do think he did. But I just think he's going to be really limited in this scheme. And then that entire overtime drive, they just went right at Fisk. Like, yeah, they handed it to Monty, built a double team on Fisk, and just blew him off the ball, and they scored immediately. So those two in this Rams defense, I just didn't love the additions that they made to replace Donald, and I thought that kind of came back to bite them. Tre'Davious White one-on-one with J-Mo. Toast, right? Like not even J-Mo stopped for that ball and waited for it and caught it underhand. He was so open. The Rams, like, it's tough to be too low on the Rams because I think Stafford's a legit MVP candidate, like you're saying, Matt. But at the same time, I think that the defensive talent's going to be kind of tough to overcome.
If they can stay in this division, yeah, but it's a tough division, man. The Cardinals look good. We haven't even talked about them today. Kyler Murray looks very, very good.
Marv's a bust, though.
Yeah, very limited Marv involvement, I fear.
Grow up.
Because he sucks, actually.
He's a decoy, being very valuable.
Decoy
Kyler missed him for the game. Blind Kyler. Not his fault.
Not his fault. That's a funny...
Bring back McCord.
That'll be the thumbnail. We don't talk about them at all. Not his fault, Kyler Murray.
No, not his fault with Marv, and then Matt as me. But it may have been his fault. I didn't really... this one, I kind of kept tabs on, but I don't know. I couldn't quite decipher why Marv wasn't getting the ball. So
that wasn't a game I was too locked in on either, so I can't be the...
Yeah, I didn't see a lot of this one. I won't lie. Does that about do it for us? Do we have any other games that we really want to talk about? Obviously, you can't catch them all in one sitting. We'll probably talk about a few more of them that we didn't on the next episode. Jaguars, Dolphins, we didn't really get to.
Right.
We got some watching to do.
Yeah, that's true.
We can't watch everything. We can try. We'll do our best, but things slip through the cracks. Can only watch a couple of games at once, but... yeah, I think that does do it for another episode of Stay Hot. Man, it's late. But thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode. We'll be back to preview Week 2. We'll talk about the Monday night game, I imagine. But until then, thank you all so much for tuning in once again. And we will catch you on the flippity flop.